on my attention. My countrymen, they love their fiction. Words upon now, it's made with good intentions.
Welcome to 1200 Media, Politics, whatever the fuck we want. Back with me and Philip.
Yoda.
How you doing? You've been away.
I have. I've been in Southeast Asia and South Asia researching the global geopolitical landscape.
What's it looking
Uh,
like?
it's nice. It's warm. So what could possibly be wrong with that? So I've come back incredibly well informed about New Zealand news because the main thing you do when you're on holiday in South and Southeast Asia for 3 weeks is wake up every morning and check local Auckland news to see, keep up with the events of the day. So I'm just as well informed as ever, and anyone who disagrees can fuck off, basically.
I'm just glad we had the money to send you on such a junket.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thanks for all your patronage, Patreon
Yeah,
listeners.
that's our supporters. That's our supporters. Get on board. We can send Philip on more trips to Southeast Asia.
Thank you. That's what we do here.
You can't get news about New Zealand any better than if you're outside the country. So please, Patreon link is in the summary. Sign up, subscribe, send us some money, and we can get Philip overseas as much as possible
For just
to
two
make sure he's
dollars
got the
a
outside view.
for just $2 a month, you can keep me away from the podcast for weeks at a time every year. You're welcome, everyone.
There's once again too much news. You've missed out. You've missed some. Oh no, you haven't. You've been reading about it every day, but you haven't been here marinating in New Zealand political events. But this week, everything continues apace. Just it's so insane now. We started the week, Chlöe Swarbrick getting kicked out of the debating chamber for telling what's really funny about this one. So in case you haven't caught up with this somehow, it's like been everywhere all over social and stuff. So fair cop if you've been trying to ignore it. There was an urgent debate on Palestine after some of our Five Eyes partners who we usually are in pretty good lockstep with decided to do some blather about recognizing the state of Palestine, and we weren't really following suit, which is a little bit of a shift in how this government has approached the issue of the genocide in Gaza, which hasn't been good in any way, for the record. So there's an urgent debate about it. Everyone was standing up, and either saying we need to do something, or in the case of the ACT Party's Simon Court, continuing to just unleash this wave of genocide apologia, which is horrific and should mean that he is never anywhere near politics again. But, your mileage may vary on how much of those kind of people you want near the reins of power. And Chloe stood up and she did not even say, I want to be very clear on this because I think this has been missed by much of the commentators. She did not even say that people were spineless or that people didn't have a spine. She said, if you don't do this thing, you do not have a spine. And whose fault is it? But the government themselves, if they should not vote for stronger measures against Israel, if people believe that they do not have a spine for refusing to cross the floor on this. 6 MPs, and it could be anyone. If you're not doing something about that, it is pretty fucking cowardly. If not, and that's euphemistic. That's charitable that these people are just cowardly.
Yeah.
People like Chris Bishop, we know they are rooting for genocide. They
Yeah.
they fucking love it. They have been happy to respond to their constituents and members of the public to run out pro-genocide lines, like direct Israeli Hasbara. So for her to get kicked out by the speaker for implying that some people might be spineless for decisions that they could or could not take is just off the charts.
Yeah, that's a really good point that, A, she didn't explicitly call people spineless. B, you should be able to call people spineless in the house, and people have multiple times, and it hasn't been a big deal. But also, C, that it really gives them the benefit of the doubt. It's the thing we often talk about with the Labour Party here, that saying that they're trying to do the right thing and failing actually gives them too much credit, right? Because why assume You know, the government can see what's happening in Israel just as well as we can. Not taking steps once you have power means you're in the tank for what you're doing, right? There's no reason to say, oh, actually, these people's heart's in the right place. We're all trying to get to the same outcome. Christopher Luxon is just as anti-genocide as us. He's just going about it a different way. These are all like soft, like liberal kind of understandings, right? That pretty much everyone listening to this podcast, I hope, has been disabused of in the last 8
7
years.
years,
Um,
7, 8 years. Yeah. Like, imagine if you've been listening to 7 or 8 years, like, oh fuck. Yeah, actually, that's a great point. Why haven't they made this before?
Yeah, sorry to repeat ourselves, but yeah, I mean, you could be a lot nastier and a lot, I think, more accurate and clear-eyed than Chloe was, and say we can see that no one in the government has wants to end the genocide. So you're actually pro what's happening, right? It's not that you're spineless. Like this is the world you want to live in. Otherwise, you do something about it. Which would be a much nastier thing to say than spineless, which actually assumes that the outcome that you want is the same outcome that your opposition wants.
Yeah.
And who knows, there probably are a bunch of people on the backbenches who value their career more highly than ending genocide, but are broadly anti-genocide.
I imagine living like that.
I know.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, well, isn't that's the Labour Party and small numbers of people in the National Party, I assume. But it doesn't matter, right? You could also say that, you've placed your position in the hierarchy over any amount of care that you actually have for an outcome like that to Chris Finlayson your way to the top or whatever, be the good Nat.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific. And there's a whole bunch of, institutional rule stuff, which is just out of pocket as well from Jerry Brownlee, and everyone who voted to kick Chloe out for not apologizing. But I don't really give a shit. Like, that's not
That's not
important at this point. That's actually irrelevant. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, you mean this government is just dispensing with norms and traditions of the
Yeah.
institutions which govern power?
Yeah, we know.
Like, yeah, yes.
We've
Like,
been thinking. Yeah.
did you see what happened to Te Pāti Māori like
Yeah.
only a few months ago? Like, are you kidding me? Like, she's lucky she didn't get more days like with her pay docked. Yeah,
Well,
it's
they're just going to make up rules as they go to suit themselves at this
yeah,
point, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
including the Winston Peters position of actually saying spineless in the House should be fine, but also voting to kick Chloe out for a week,
And
right?
having no
The
media like
most,
actually call that out,
the
putting
most
media putting them
incoherent
up like,
position. Yeah,
look at this free speech legend.
yeah, yeah.
Fuck off.
Very
And
funny.
it's so embarrassing to me how like I don't even know what to call like the behavioral gallery at this point, except just complicit in what's happening to the political culture of this country, eh? Just continually allowing this two-faced approach of basically every member of this government who vote for these horrific things and then turn around and go, oh, I actually believe in free speech. Like, but why did you do
Yeah,
this? Like, that question is not even being asked,
yeah.
let alone headlined. And it's pretty frustrating. But as you say, like all the institutional stuff aside, the fact that they're choosing to rewrite the rules in this way, I think is a pretty clear indication that Brownlee himself is pro-genocide. Like it you don't drop the gavel over something like that unless you're feeling particularly personally aggrieved. And yeah, I mean, bad sign, bad sign. What's I guess particularly funny as well about the way that the National Party in particular has been trying to pitch this is Luxon got caught in an interview saying that Netanyahu had lost the plot. They're doing everything to the New Zealand government is doing everything it can, and the New Zealand media in particular, like even more than the government, I think, in some respects, to run cover for the genocide being perpetrated by Israel. And Luxon kind of follows, I guess, the broad sweeps with this one soundbite of our other Five Eyes countries. Like, oh, I don't think Israel should be doing this anymore. It's actually bad now because they're starving people, not all the other things I've done. which is still probably stronger than anything Anthony Albanese or Keir Starmer have said. Like, this is not credit to Christopher Luxon. I'm just placing him on a scale of what Five Eyes leaders have said about Israel and Netanyahu. But they've still held so much water, right? They've still done so much work to normalize the atrocities occurring in Palestine, and immediately got dogpiled by an Israeli politician and Israeli media. And it's just like you're not gonna win this. They're gonna come for you no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Like you can do whatever you can to like walk this line of respectability while running cover for genocide. And if you take one little step out, they're just gonna hit you with the hammer.
Yeah. Christopher Luxon is Hamas now.
Well,
That's all
can't do
it
anything
takes.
about it, mate.
There's no, yeah, you're right. There's no like tick of responsibility that's small enough that Israel will let it go. They're just on full aggressive mode. So why bother, right? You're either with them or against them. The shiny iron dome of Christopher Luxon's head has has joined the Hamas legions. Yeah, it's funny, right? Because it's clearly just because he's not a good politician. Like he doesn't understand the words to say. He's not practiced enough at this that he would say something like that without realizing the consequences. And he's just bad. He's bad at it, right? He's not steeped in international affairs at all, to say the least, right? So it doesn't matter that functionally he's more in the tank for Israel than any of our Five Eyes members. One little kind of verbal like mistake like that the New Zealand media let him get away with constantly, and internationally it's seen as actually meaning something, as opposed to, you know, high power New Zealand establishment media who are used to listening to Luxon and going, well, he probably meant this.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta get to know this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
We
Um,
we understand him. We're mates.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Lord knows, hey, it's amazing that we being the country, right? Establishment media kind of give him the benefit of the doubt so much more. It's almost the reverse of the Jacinda phenomenon, right? Right, where overseas media loved Jacinda and at home the establishment media were dogpiling her every day. In New Zealand, we've kind of got the opposite of that now, where Christopher Luxon overseas, people are going, "What did this guy just say something that means something?" And everyone in New Zealand's going, "No, no, no." You know,
What's the
he's
difference between these two politicians? Let me try
great.
and put my fucking finger on it. Why
Yeah,
could this be happening like this?
if only we could interpret that in some way that meant something.
And wait, look, and just to be clear, if you haven't been listening to us for the last 7 to 8 years, we're not an Ardern fan podcast. We do
Yeah,
not like this politician. We don't like either of them.
yeah,
But it's still fucking funny to see that the chasm between the way that our political media in particular report on, communicate with, frame up the way these like a Labour leader who was overwhelmingly popular with the public as well, I want to be clear, and a national leader who was historically unpopular with the public. Like it's absurd. Like, and people who are still have been saying, "Oh no, media's just objective. They're just quoting the fucking politicians. There's no bias here." Like, are you fucking lunatics? Like, what are you talking about? We hate them all because we're centrists on this podcast. Like, so we're just taking the most objective view possible. And I think if you put those two political environments or political states side by side, it is really hard to miss how overwhelmingly biased towards corporate white male, increasingly far right politics the corporate media. And, oh no, because RNZ as well, like the establishment media
establishment media. Yeah,
are. And you can make any justification that you want. I don't care. Like, oh, we're not really biased. They're actually quite left wing, and they're all liberals. So why would they be biased to the right? It's probably just the business model or something. But like, okay, but the outcome of the system is
so
what it
what's the
does.
outcome? Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's still fucking creating a shit at the end. Like, it's a shit machine. I think more people are grasping that, and certainly if you've listened to this podcast, you will have. But far too many people still aren't. And I guess it just brings me back around to my constant refrain, like, you can come to any conclusion you want about this, but like, why weren't the left electoral parties establishing their own alternative media pipelines and environments and ecosystems. And, it is happening. It is happening. And if you've been an audience member and a subscriber, you've helped to do that. Like genuinely, like we've seen the way that community and that ecosystem has developed via the work we do. But the big audiences are still with Stuff and with NZME and with RNZ. And these organizations are just pumping out essentially what is propaganda on Solid. And we're going to talk about some of that in regards to a couple of other issues today. And, since 2023, outright genocide denial. Like,
Mm.
you think they're scuffed, they're dumb. Like, they are dead in the water and they don't know it yet.
Yeah, it's, running cover for authoritarianism, illiberalism, and global affairs like genocide, pro actual kind of end of the world outcomes when it comes to climate change and
Yeah, like
rampant
with AI
wars
boosterism
and
and stuff as well, alongside that.
new Cold Wars, anti-civil liberties, etc., etc., etc. There's no like, you can sort of see yourself as a soft L liberal if you like, but you're working in an ecosystem that is very clear what it prioritizes, and it's nothing good.
Yeah, I think you'll find that if you go onto one of these sites and you do a Google search, you'll find one article by one journalist that actually disproves everything you're saying because it's actually anti-fash.
Yeah, and it's
What I'm saying is not all journalists.
oh yeah, no, true. It's unfair to tar all these piles of tile with the same tar brush. And it's yeah, you'll hire someone who used to be a staffer for one of the kind of more liberal parties and publish an opinion piece by them every week or two and go, look, both sides actually have a platform, whilst all of your editors and permanent kind of commentators are right to far right adjacent. It's wild. It's just wild, right? Like, yeah, it turns out there's still a need for alternative media, I guess is what we're coming back to.
Yeah, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the case.
No.
Like I think this is something that people often get wrong about me. I don't know what your fucking view is on this, Philip, necessarily. I can guess. But I would love it if RNZ was really well funded and weren't fuck ups. Like I want our establishment media to do a 180, right? And like turn it around and adhere to the journalistic principles they ostensibly purport to. I just don't think that's what they're there for. I don't think that modern day journalism and media organizations have ever really been about how holding the powerful to account. Not for a very long time. And I don't think even a lot of the journalism training stuff does anything other than maybe start with that and have a couple of lecturers here and there. It's comms stuff now. They're taught comms. And especially in New Zealand, the carousel between journalist, political gallery, corporate
Yeah.
lobbyist, kind of ministerial advisor, etc., like is so quick. There's
Yeah.
so much quick turn. It's like business journalists going into the minister of the office of the prime minister. Like that
Yeah.
happens pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Like it is not. This is corrupt, by the way. This is like a corruption indicator. As Transparency International, as many gold stars as we have from them, these are bad things for a working democracy. And yet it's like the career path. Like it's the established career path. It is how journalists try to cash out. That's really bad. If the people who are meant to be holding power to account have a career path that brings them inside the tent as part of its established
Predictably.
pathway.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
You know,
what are you doing?
and you can see when you're in your 20s if you're a young kind of up and coming journalist who gets thrown into the dog pile at the gallery or whatever you're doing, right? Even if you try kind of investigative stuff, you can see that in 10 years, your career path is going to involve one of these establishment channels, right? We don't have that many Nicky Hagas, you know? You can't just actually investigate stuff and make money in this country and
I'd say even Nikki
have
Hager
a
struggles with that.
yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. We need a new book, Nikki. But yeah, it's predictable, and you can see the easy career path is the Jason Walls career path, and like looking forward, it's much easier to be a Mike Hosking than a Nikki Hager, and the money's a hell of a lot better. So why would you not kind of slide downhill instead of continually climbing the most difficult kind of mountaintops imaginable? And it's not a good sign. Like we're a small country, right? So to some extent, I think it's kind of inevitable that there's this kind of glut that we don't have more than a small number of people to investigate what's actually going on. There are only 120 MPs, right? There's only 5 million people. It's not that many. But it's not a good sign that when you're looking at establishment news sources, there are kind of, what, 20 people kind of reporting all the political news to us. And if they all went under a bus, their succession plan just isn't there. It's the same carousel of people coming in and coming out. And there's very little light between reporting for TV1, reporting for the Herald, reporting for Stuff, reporting for RNZ. These aren't fundamentally different outlets with different kind of theories of power or even kind of understanding of how the world works, right? There's 10 people in a fucking real estate market behind them, and that's kind of all we have. When was the last time you heard like a genuinely new voice in establishment media saying something different?
I want to say the one fucking ray of hope is Maori media, right?
Oh yeah.
And because they do have a theory of power,
Mm.
right? They are forced to in some respects, but also they've got a bunch of fantastic journalists who take the stuff really seriously.
But there's a reason they don't get syndicated, you know?
Funny,
Where
isn't
this,
it?
where the actual audiences are, Stuff and Herald and RNZ, they're not reposting much from Wātea or Tangata or, Māori radio, iwi radio, which does some amazing work. That just gets kind of filed under done and left on a website and then eventually taken down quietly.
I think a clear indicator is in any healthy media environment, both Mihi Forbes and Moana Maniapoto, with the absolute damage they have done to politicians across the interviewing table from them, that should be hitting like front pages of other news, like basically every week for how well they end up putting politicians on the spot and holding them to account. Like that is news in itself. In any other environment, they would be driving clicks, but for how well they're doing that. But you're only really seeing them if you follow those news sources or catch a clip on social media, right? Which is coming through different pipelines.
And any news about Mary Forbes's work is framed as Act says X about Mary Forbes, right? Mary Forbes chasing David Seymour around.
Absolutely obscene
Yeah.
that other people in a newsroom are framing up Mihi's work as being within like David Seymour openly calling her a conspiracy theorist. Like that's foul. Like you do not deserve like get her name out of your mouths.
And it
Like
shows.
you
And I
fucking
mean,
hacks.
look, this is the same as the Palestine framing, right? Because you can see that establishment kind of mainstream journalists have very consciously picked a side, and the side is the right corporate propaganda over investigation, including kind of class interests, right? If you're a journalist, Israel's killed what more
Uh,
journalists in
Over 200.
yeah, than in any other recorded kind of conflict. So if you thought there was some kind of camaraderie between journalists, then you'd think, you'd look at that and go, that's people with my job being killed over there.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it's not people with their job, because the journalists in New Zealand are not truth seekers, they're gatekeepers.
Well, that's one of the things that triggered this
It's a
latest
different
wave
job.
of Palestine, I guess, announcements by Western governments, right? Is that Israel bombed a journalist tent and killed Anas al-Sharif, who's been just immense, like an absolute legend. Like no Western journalist can put their name beside his in the modern era, really, for his coverage on Gaza. Murdered him, and alongside that took out the rest of the Al Jazeera team on the ground in Gaza City.
Yeah.
If I was a journalist in a fucking establishment newsroom, I would be throwing shit. Hey, look, like, and what conclusion are us on the outside? Like, okay, you have all your internal reasons. Oh, why you can't do that? I don't know. You'll be sued. But the people don't click on journalists being murdered. I don't know. But like, what do you think it looks like to us on the outside who are seeing this and seeing the like the constant lack of reporting for 2 years, alongside the constant platforming of just the most horrific pro-genocide stuff under the guise often of like, oh, Netanyahu said, or whatever. Like, we know what you're doing. Like, you can't just like fill your fucking article with a speech by Netanyahu, have no Palestinian voices, and say, oh, we just quoted what he said, so we're objective. Like, oh, and that's what our newswire said. So we're not actually allowed to change that. I, I mean, there's other reporting out there. What was really interesting? Uh, Yet another. We know that they're genocide complicit. Like that's a given. But one of the things I don't think I had seen before, done in quite the same way, on a recent story this week, following Netanyahu's claim that they're going to like take over Gaza City, right? Like we're gonna, and wanting to do Greater Israel shit. Like being as open as he's always been since like day one, by the way. The New Zealand journalist quoted the Times of Israel to quote Netanyahu, I think. And like, okay, wait, so you can use Israeli media sources, which have been one of the main ways that us in the alternative media world have been able to track like the genocide pronouncements of Israeli politicians. So why weren't you able to do that? Or why aren't you doing it now?
Yeah.
To get a quote from Ben-Gvir or Netanyahu or any other member of like the Israeli Knesset saying we're going to kill every Palestinian,
Yeah.
which I pretty frequently in Jerusalem Post, Times of Israel, from a range of other Israeli orgs. Why haven't you used those stories to report on? Why are you now just using it as cover? And like it's an editorial decision. Like
Mm.
there's no hope. There's no hope for our establishment newsrooms here. They love genocide.
They've picked a side. Yeah. And and you have to go back to the kind of what type of reporting is it? You have to think that the purpose of the system is what it does. Functionally, the way that New Zealand newsrooms look at Palestinian journalists is as Palestinians first and journalists second, if at all, because the death of a Palestinian journalist is isn't news to them, right? It's more Palestinians dying, which is part of the worldview that they've bought into, that's kind of baked in. And it's not fundamentally journalists dying, which is their kind of identity, you know? I don't think there is that kind of, not even solidarity, but understanding that that's who you are, right? That's the role that you should be playing in society, because they're not just not playing that role, but I don't think they even see themselves as playing that role in society. They're not outsiders, right? In the same way as
They're active
Palestinian
journalists.
journalists are definitionally outsiders because they're being attacked by the monolith. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
telling.
seeing basically every establishment media outlet here quote without caveat the IDF saying that Anas al-Sharif was an Hamas operative. I don't need any more evidence.
Yeah, yeah,
Like just on that alone. Like even if there hadn't been anything else that had happened over the last 2 years.
mm,
Yeah, horrific. And it's not. I mean, we talk about this every week, right? It continues to be. I have nothing else to say about it right now. So, Royal Commission on the COVID response, and yet another example of the way that media and this government, this far right national government, I think, coordinating intentionally or not, in a little smoky back room or not, to frame up previous Labour government and MPs as to blame for something, I don't know, because they wouldn't turn up to what was essentially a tacked on kangaroo court to castigate them in public, including Luxon just lying and saying that the inquiry had used its summons powers, which media did say he got this wrong. But like, why aren't you just being like, that's a lie, mate? Like, and then every single outlet saying Ardern et al. Refused to appear in public before the
mm.
Royal Commission, right? Like, oh, I can't believe they're so non-transparent. If they were in the right, why don't they just say it, in front of this inquiry? And kind of burying the lead that each of them, Grant Robertson, Chris Hipkins, Jacinda Ardern, who we don't like on this podcast, for the record. We think they fucked it. We think they did some fucked up stuff, and I don't like them as human beings. They have provided like extensive interviews and information and given them everything that the inquiry's asked for already. And
And
this
the
was
first inquiry. We already had an inquiry.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
We already had a fairly extensive inquiry, and as you're saying, they've all answered questions in private. It's the performative aspect that they're not willing to engage in.
and fair
And that's
enough.
not in many headlines. Like it's a much more honest headline to say after a first inquiry, this second COVID inquiry, the public section of this second COVID inquiry is part that these people don't want to appear in. But that's not there's no blood in that headline, right? That's the truth. And unfortunately that's not going to be leading many news lines.
It's so obvious like what they're doing and they
Mm,
again whether coordinated or not they every establishment outlet is running the same line exactly
yeah.
that the ACT Party New Zealand First Amendment and National are running to attack Ardern, Robertson, Hipkins.
Yeah.
Like that's just not
And,
great. Like
and its
it's not a good
function
move.
it's interesting what it kind of shows about this coalition as well, I think, because it allows the media, which I kind of broadly define as part of this coalition, probably the strongest part of this government, to run the Jacinda, Hipkins, Robertson, scared to appear kind of implication or are hiding something, which allows New Zealand First to say, oh, what's the conspiracy here? We don't really know what happened when our fucking leader was the deputy prime minister of the country. Like, who could possibly understand what was going on? And it allows ACT to say, we're just asking questions about spending. The government got too big and now we have to cut taxes somehow to increase revenue again. Let's not get think too much about that. And it allows National to just be broadly anti-Labour in as ambiguous a tone as they can when
The last 6 years kind of stuff.
yeah, those are all actually different arguments, right? Like they're converging on this point from different angles. And if they had to actually ask those questions in public, I think it becomes clearer. Like, I don't know, I get the impulse not to appear, but I don't think they would have lost much by saying that shit in public that they already said in private. And honestly, it would have made less media. You know, it's one of those like,
I don't think you're right about that.
yeah, I might be wrong. I might be
I think they would have clipped it to hell.
Yeah,
And
but
they would
who's
have
watching that? Conspiracy theorists who are already in the tank. And I know the clips they're trying to get are David Seymour types saying big spending and ACT Party, New Zealand First types making allusions about truth or information flows. But honestly, I don't see that changing the trajectory of anything. It's all backward looking. And New Zealand media would get over that shit in like 2 days. Whereas now it's just it allows the coalition. I mean they would have done this anyway, right? I don't think functionally it makes a big difference, but it allows the coalition to stick to cohere more.
yeah. I
Whereas
think
I think that the like making those distinctions more explicit, I think would have been quite easy to do, as happened in the first COVID inquiry, which is why we're not talking about
yeah.
it. You know?
I think if, Hipkins had a bit more guts, he could like you take every platform you can get, right?
Yeah,
You go up there, and you turn on the Hipkins attack dog
yeah,
and
exactly.
you do what the media hasn't done. Like you drop in stuff about Winston Peters being in the coalition
Yeah,
during the things, being more liberal,
yeah,
about like or more authoritarian about mandates and things like that than
yeah.
Ardern and Robertson were being, or even
No jab,
Hipkins.
no dole
Yep,
lines.
yep.
Um,
You dropping stuff
act
about
act
ACT putting
supporting
out
that.
like wanting
Yeah,
to pay people to get vaccines.
yeah.
Like both
Rip
Seymour
the
and Winston Peters were very much on the other side of this in terms
yeah,
of like authoritarian creep
yeah. And Judith
during
Collins.
COVID.
Yeah, Judith Collins has some really like illiberal pro lockdown kind of lines early on as part of the national kind of flailing, trying to understand what its position was. And there's plenty of that stuff you can bring out and just go on the attack, like you say. It's not going to get massive
Yeah.
clicks, but I think it would allow the coalition to speed up the
Yeah.
disintegration that it's currently able to kind of forestall.
I think the problem is that the Labour apparatus kind of convinced itself that, and with like a fucking vicious cycle with the media and whoever their fucking strategists and pollsters are, these fucking like right-wing assholes. Like oh, COVID is what
Yeah,
you lost the election on. No, it was one of the most popular things you've ever done, you fucking idiots.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you can get up there and say, not save lives, fuck you.
yeah,
Yes, there were things we didn't do well. I like they made mistakes. There were
mm,
mistakes. Like
yeah,
one of those was the transfer of wealth to homeowners,
yeah,
like and to big corporates. Like whoops. But also, that's what business owners love. Like if you
exactly,
really want to fucking run it. But
exactly.
they've really like internalized this idea that that Aucklanders in particular hate them for this. And that's just like a fucking yeah. Like short-sighted. They've been bubbled, right? Like
Yeah,
the Labour executive is in this horrible little who I still include Robertson Ardern as part of, right? This horrible little feedback loop with like your Neil Joneses and stuff. You know, who was just like turns out was voting to changing the name of Rongotai to Wellington Bays. Like this guy is how is he ever near the Labour Party, you know? Oh wait, that's what the Labour
oh,
Party
wait.
is. But you know what they purport to be, right? Like it's just racist. Like straight up. But they've got a whole like a whole infrastructure of people like that who are like just so deep in their horrible polling notes, their public surveying with freaks that have handpicked as weather vanes. You know, what are these kind of people called? Like, what are the people called who swing voters, swing both ways, who are just bigots, right? Like they're just bigots. Hey, well done, you fucking set up all your policy and messaging based on what bigots think. Great work. Yeah, and then like just to come back to like a final point on the reporting today, the media just set itself up fantastically for more articles. From these are both in NZME. Poll reveals Kiwis disagree with Ardern and Hipkins for not fronting public COVID inquiry hearing, and a direct quote from the Courier TPU poll, which they have somehow obtained. Accountability is mute when it's behind closed doors.
Wow, deep.
What? But it's a 500 person poll from TPU Courier on issues polling, which is probably push polled 4.4% like outside of like range. And this is why TPU Courier removed itself from the industry body was because they got caught out heavily push polling issues polls in particular. And I don't give a shit how close to or how decent their electoral polling is. The only reason that our establishment media has continued to run them in their stories as like a as an electoral poll is to normalize them being used again so they can somehow obtain these issues polls and use them to frame up stories and push narratives. Like this is very clearly what has happened right here. And then Thomas Coughlan, just when you thought COVID was over, pandemic handling returns to headlines. One, COVID's not fucking over. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It's still killing people. Like, there are people who are permanently disabled. We could still do with like the entire gamut of COVID mitigations, like clean air policies in our classrooms, right? Like, are you fucking kidding me? And two, oh, it's just returned to headlines. Well, no, who did it?
Yeah, how did that happen?
Like, hey, stop! You're a
Yeah,
parody of yourselves.
yeah.
Ah,
Who did this? We're all trying to find the person who returned COVID to headlines.
I'm losing it. Yeah, and you know, this isn't only within these like niche issues. Like talking about COVID as if it's a niche issue. What am I doing? Like this week as well. I think it was Erica Stanford just outright lied. Was it Judith Collins as well? About teacher pay rates. They're like, oh yeah, top pay rate for teachers, they can all get to 147K or something. Absolute bullshit.
Wild,
And
eh? Yeah.
and then media ran it as a headline.
Mm.
And no one was like, these guys are fucking lying. Like, and at the same time, like they're saying, this is like they do this every year. It's like an attack on parents, an attack on students. This is just playing politics. Media fucking holding water for the anti-teacher brigade. Like, yo, media, you're of the same class. These are your people.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And the reason that teachers are striking is because they're offered 1%. Are you kidding me? Like, how is that not the headline? Like national offers teachers 1%, teachers strike.
Yeah,
This seems correct.
it's under inflation as well, right? That's a
It's
pay cut.
well under.
So yeah, it's been consistently under in a high inflation cost of living environment. So, in the same way as the nurse argument, National's running the exact same defense
Same
line,
thing. Yeah, and
which
media
is
are following suit again.
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, where's the like looking outside and telling us whether it's raining approach from the media on nurse pay and teacher pay? They just repeat what these people say. Like, surely your first response, if you're even a reporter, even just like a standard kind of reportage journalist person in the gallery, and a minister tells you actually teachers getting paid $147,000 is just to smell bullshit and go, can you show me the evidence for that? I'm not running
Yeah.
that line until you tell me why you think that's the case. Aren't you the
Oh, but we just
minister?
reported what they said, Philip. Philip, we're just reporting what they said. We can't.
Aren't
That's
you the
newsworthy in and of
fucking
itself.
and the same way as with Simeon Brown, you say, aren't you the Minister of Health? Like, how do you
Yeah.
not know what nurses are being paid? How does Erica Stanford not know what teachers are being paid? And the answer is they do. They do know those things. And they're lying to your face because they know you will run that line
Because yeah.
unedited without sufficient context around it. I mean, if the headline was Minister of Education doesn't know what teachers are paid, then I can tell you Erica Stanford will not run that line again, right?
I want to write the correct line, but this boot is so far into my mouth that it's touching my brain and triggering the motor like neurons that make me type out their quote.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking idiots.
It's the same line. And yeah, I mean, if reporters had done a better job on Simeon Brown consistently lying about what nurses were paid, and you can say lying
Because
because
they're lying.
make him take you to court, right?
But the thing is, you don't
That's a
even need to
better
say
story.
lying. You know what will
Yeah.
get you really good clicks? You know what will get some fucking nice clicks, mate?
Yeah.
Is politicians offer national offers teachers 1% after giving themselves 10% earlier in the year.
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
like,
That's a better story.
like that's a pretty great story. Far out.
Yeah.
It's just offensive what we're being expected to put up with.
Yeah.
I'm cracked. Like I'm done. But that's been true for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how they recover from this, right? It's so institutionalized now. Like you could fund them more. You could do whatever. You could be like, hey, have $600 million.
Mm.
Really useful number that. Um, and revamp what RNZ does, and they'll just turn into this like massive fascist edifice, right? Like it's too evil already. And you just propagate like this absolute garbage. You do need to tear it down, or like politically appoint someone like National did Paul Thompson
Mm.
to like revamp the entire organization.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty cooked. But yeah, like $600 million. You know what could have paid for all these teacher and nurse pay rises, and better media, and school lunches is the money that Nicola Willis lost with a text message canceling the ferries. You know how this is being pitched? Oh, actually, the extra cost of the contract break only cost $147 million dollars, which was much less than the $300 million that they put aside just in case. Wow, what fantastic financial
Savings.
handlers.
Yeah. Incredible. Thank goodness for the party of business.
Just no, like she sent a text message to a major shipyard in South Korea to like minutes essentially before announcing it to the New Zealand public to cancel a $500 million infrastructure and transport project. I do not think that has ever been done in the like that kind of economic vandalism has ever been done like that. The casualness of it versus the damage.
Yeah, she needs a better phone plan at those rates, eh?
Like she should have resigned. Like
Mm.
she should have been hounded from day one where we found that out, right? Like she should not be able to show her face in public. She should have to leave the country essentially because that's how bad her reputation is because of journalists and media hounding her out of politics. Like she should never be able to do the leap to lobbyist or corporate chair because of how bad she is at this. Like, and genuinely, I think it would be difficult for her to move to the corporate world now. That's how bad that particular business decision was, compared to being like board appointed politically. She has to basically move to a political role or be given something by like a friend or family member.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, New Zealand business is a small enough club. She can Ruth Richardson her way upwards, I imagine, until she
Hmm.
dies without doing any work.
Mm.
I mean, she already did for Fonterra, right? What's going to change?
Yeah, for sure.
She's still essentially a lobbyist for Fonterra, just marginally
I've
high
been caught out being too much of an
profile.
idealist once again. Thanks, Philip, for keeping me real.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, I mean, the fact that the finance minister is has created such a fiasco and been essentially replaced by Winston Peters in that role because what he has better financial acumen. What's the reasoning there?
I think he's more corrupt
And what is that?
in a very specific way.
And what does that say about the government? That they need that specific brand of experience in brackets corruption to shepherd through a deal, right? And what is that meant to be reassuring that the Minister of Finance, who's handling all the rest of our books, fucks this small deal in such a massive public way, and the Prime Minister says, "Oh, that's fine. She's running the rest of the country." Good. No, that's actually worse. You get how that's worse, right? Coded.
What's
Bad. Not good. Pick a new finance minister.
what's really worrying about this, I guess, beyond just the obvious, is I think this is clearly an example of the freight lobby mixing it and just like and in the same way that has happened with the curriculum, has happened with a healthcare privatization direction, is happening with private school stuff and like the AI boosterism coming out of Stanford and Judith Collins. They've said we can't have this because and we can't have it rail enabled because that will ruin heavy trucks. And Nicola Wilson has jumped because that's what this government does. First and foremost, Shane Jones and mining and stuff, etc., right? Like gas exploration, they're taking off cameras from fishing boats. It's just someone up in the business world has said, we don't want that. We're going to give you a big dono next election. We'll give you 500K or whatever. Maybe probably not even that much. These guys are cheap. Just nix it. Just nix it. Show that you're loyal to us. Destroy this country for a century, because I want to be clear. That in particular, this decision with the ferries has a decades long tail, so that our fucking truck companies keep turning a buck.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it is transfer of wealth, right? And for a party that has talked about rail a lot, it's pretty explicit betrayal from New Zealand First for Winston Peters to be the one who does that much generational damage to goods rail in this country.
And the problem with heavy freight, as we know, is that it locks us into roading stuff, constant maintenance, constant issues with traffic, with safety, given all the other fucking roading changes. Because the stuff around speeds and stuff like that as well, that's
Mm.
freight led. I
Mm.
want to be really clear about that. The stuff around potholes, that's driven by heavy freight on our roads. This is one of the most business captured governments we've ever had in terms of their willingness. Where like 2026, and they've signaled this just in the last couple of weeks again, they're going with asset sales. Like that's going to be on the agenda for them to say we have a mandate to do this now, and they're going to do the Roger Douglas. They're going to try and do another wholesale emptying of the government assets at cut rates to big business and private ownership, and probably just like again a couple of major players like Hart, like fuck, I don't even know who else is out there at this point, eh? But
Well, we will in
that
20
is the
years
intent.
when that's the only rich list we have. We will, right? That's how we'll find out who the next generation of people are going to be. They'll be the Max Keys of this world who'll see an opportunity, young
Have a bit in the
people
bank.
who'll
Oh
just
yeah,
massively leverage
yeah.
and buy all of our kind of
I'd
shared
like a couple of hospitals.
wealth. Yeah, exactly. It'll be private health, private education, private everything. And we
Yeah,
can see it from the direction that the ministers are throwing money at private options, including kind of AI-ifying things like marking. There'll be some private consultancy that's going
yeah.
to
It's
make
Crimson. That's why I've seen Jamie Beaton like in the
in the
news
headline.
all of a sudden, at the same time. As Stanford has been making these curriculum changes and like announcing them, talking about AI marking,
Yeah.
Jamie Beadon shows his horrific face once again.
Yeah.
He's such a scam artist.
Absolutely. And it'll be the same outcome. I mean, it's quite amazing how similar the kind of the playbook is for health and education, eh? After watching all these shenanigans with Simeon Brown coming in, they need to appoint a hatchet man for
Yep.
education.
They're well-liked public services that people rely on to grow it within our community, right? And to stay safe. It obviously makes sense to like run the same narrative, right?
Yeah.
And bundle them up.
Well, it's working for them. I mean, they're still in power. You only need a term if you do it right.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and I mean, we've got Simon Bridges saying businesses in Auckland need more money, like asking for a handout from the government, which is quite funny considering the kind of national leader he was. Um, that he's kind of being forced to do that. And there was an amazing result I saw that ACT Party voters are really the only voters who are happy with this government. National Party
Funny that.
voters,
Why could that be?
exactly, because it's an ACT government, right?
Very clearly.
You don't need to be the biggest party to have all of your policies implemented, is what we're learning. Green voters take note. Green MPs take note. ACT voters are the ones who are happy. New Zealand First voters not particularly happy. National voters not happy. ACT voters pretty happy with how the
Yeah.
government's going.
Yeah.
It's because they're the ones getting their fucking policies through, right?
Yeah, yeah, and including on the Palestine stuff, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
like led by ACT and a couple of incredibly nasty national MPs like Chris Bishop.
yeah. And that you don't need to be in the majority to,
No, no,
you
no,
know,
not to control this
things up.
government. It's all
Um,
hacks.
Yeah, I mean, negotiate better. That's to some extent that's MMP. Like we've been
Yeah,
saying this
yeah,
for a long time that you don't need to be the biggest party to get shit done. You need to be the most determined. You need to fight your corner the hardest. You need to have a strong base and connection to your voters, and you
yeah.
need to have a great comms apparatus. And ACT, unfortunately, on all those metrics, is the strongest of the three coalition parties.
Regardless of how hated they are,
Yeah,
including David Seaman being, I think, possibly the most unpopular politician on record in New Zealand.
yeah, I
Like
think so.
his numbers, I think, are below Trump's
It's pretty
in terms
wild,
of
yeah.
favorability. Like,
But you don't need favorability,
no,
right?
exactly,
You
exactly.
can be hated by 90% of people and loved by 10% and have all those aforementioned structures and you
Because
can
we
fucking win.
It's because we don't have checks and balances here.
Yeah.
And everything that was a check and balance, the government has like and we talked about this during Labour, like you
Mm.
have parliamentary sovereignty.
Yeah.
Like the executive can do whatever it wants. You should probably do some
It's
things.
a very just do it country.
With when you have like a majority,
Mm.
like to the extent that they do, National doesn't even have a majority.
No.
Um, and they are riding over things that we would have even said Labour should do.
Mm. Mm.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's a
and
very
most of those are checks and balances, like using urgency, like as much as they want, like getting rid of select committees, like not doing fucking submissions,
speaker just pretty
just
much
making shit
unilaterally
up.
kicking people out,
Yeah,
getting rid of Te Pāti Māori MPs for standing up and doing a haka for just as long as he wants, right?
yeah.
If you have the majority, it's a very move fast and break things country. Like we don't really have institutional norms that will hold up the progress of authoritarian or liberalism.
No, not
When
at
you
all. In
have
fact, we have rules that make it easier.
make it very easy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean the left doesn't seem to have done much about that,
the left
which is
doesn't
unfortunate.
exist.
There's no interest in kind of using those levers in the way that we see on
Yeah.
the right.
Well, I think that part of the thing is like one, Labour's a neoliberal party, first and foremost. Like Roger Douglas was created by it, and they haven't thrown that off. They've got worse,
Mm.
in some respects. Obviously, some silver linings aside, blah blah blah. And just because of ratchet politics or whatever you want to call it, they've moved right. They've moved significantly right. And then the Greens are liberal facing. So
Mm.
there's a bunch of that institutional norm stuff and like I even say some of like the consensus and nonviolence stuff that because they adhere to it quite strictly,
Yeah.
sets them up for failure in the face of like what you call parliamentary violence, I guess, if you want to
Yeah.
use that term more broadly from the right.
Yeah.
Because
Or
they
just
like what do they do about it?
or just bad faith argumentation, right?
Oh yeah, I mean even just that at a baseline, right?
It immediately disintegrates, which yeah, it's unfortunate they don't have a kind of negotiation strategy that works
Yeah.
against that. And
Once
it's
again, Te Pāti Māori at least exist.
yeah,
So they are doing a lot of the right stuff, but they're still really small.
yeah.
And there's a lot of internalized bigotry in this country, and particularly racism against Maori.
Yeah.
So it just makes it harder for them to break into where a lot of their electoral power is held, which is within liberalism, which is naturally fascist leaning. I'm sorry.
Mm.
And at an electoral level, and because I think this is one of the things that I do want to be clear about as well. Usually, when I talk about liberals, I'm mostly talking about decision makers and politicians, like in derogatory. But I think there are a lot of people with liberal ideals and values and liberal voters who are not, who are quite significantly left of the Labour Party,
Mm.
who would describe themselves as liberals. You're not real liberals. I just want to be really clear. Stop using that word to describe yourselves. Join the left.
You're normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're normal centrists like
Yeah,
us.
you're the real centrists,
Yeah.
and you need to pull Labour back to the norm,
Yeah.
because they are all Western neoliberal centre parties that ostensibly are for workers, or the Labour parties, UK, Australia,
Democrats.
Canada, and here, are completely disconnected from their electorate base at this point, from the people that they purport to represent. Just so far away from them now. And New Zealand is no exception, right? Whether or not you know it yet, because Labour has not said shit, I think you can make some pretty fair predictions around how they would act if they were to be back in power. So, yeah, become a communist today.
What a trajectory, eh?
Yeah, yeah. Like you're only going to shift the Overton window one way, and it's not by also
Yeah.
slowly moving to the right, as you're pulled behind the major, heavy air quotes, center-left party, because they are dragging their electorate. That is the role of center-left parties in Western democracy, is to, and Democrats in the US are the clearest example of this, is to dragnet their electorate behind them with an attitude of who else are they going to vote for.
Yeah. Well, there's a two-way relationship that I think a lot of pundits traditionally extremely unwilling to accept between parties and voters, right? It's not that, 60% of people support Party X. It's that Party X has created that dynamic, that two-way dynamic between themselves and people. And you build that over time. It's a dialectic, you might say, between politicians and individual voters. It's not a one-way kind of stream
Yeah.
where suddenly, Obama is just a preternaturally popular person who was in the right place at the right time. That's not how these fucking things work, right? It's watching a film and thinking it's a series of still images. It's a lot more than that, right? You're both creating and being created by the policies that you're supporting. So yeah, I think it's good the stuff that the Greens have started saying recently about like you are the politics, like that it's a bit kind of soft and nicely framed to be like get involved, that kind of outcome. But it's true, it is accurate that like the economy is people, political structures are people. It's not just the kind of the platitude of like if you don't get involved, politics will happen to you. But it's also like what you allow to happen is in part because of the communities that you're in. So people who are in the right communities create those outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's like it's not good or bad, it just is. That just is how the world works. It's an
Yeah.
accurate description.
Yeah, I'd say like I'd go so far to say like as much as I tend not to do pitches for political figures, like if you're a Labour voter generally or like a Labour member or whatever, but you're like Chloe's fucking smashing it, just go and fucking volunteer for Chloe. Like go and like join, like help the Greens out. Like put your work where your retweet is. Because you see a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, whoa, yeah, go the Greens, go Chloe, go. Actually, Chloe is kind of the only Green politician showing up in the news at the moment. But
Despite their AGM just having been passed,
oh yeah, that wasn't in
she
the news at
wasn't in the
all.
establishment media at all.
It's
And
so ridiculous.
very funny compared to any other parties
Yeah, yeah.
except National, which they deliberately kind of buried, right? But if you're not, shouldn't be getting the same amount of media from an AGM when you're doing quite well and have a lot of high profile kind of policies that you could be pushing and positions, and you're already actively campaigning in some spaces,
Yeah,
as if you're deliberately hiding your AGM because you're at a
yeah,
historic low with an unpopular leader and no one to replace him. Like those
yeah.
two things shouldn't be equivalent.
No, no, no. Because it's really going to come down to that. It's not like I really love the work people do on social media to like spread the message, right? Fantastic. But when we're coming up to 2026, and even local elections, it's going to be who's out there talking to people because more and more the online environment is structured in such a way that the groups aren't talking to each other.
Yeah.
So you need to really catch them face to face and not be weird about it. Just have normal human conversations with people and get them understanding that like some of us really want to make things better and are genuine about it, as opposed to throwing out 1,000 catchphrases and trying to slap them on people's foreheads.
Yeah, honestly, don't be weird is great political advice. It's
It's
amazing that that's still the case.
I just hate it.
People
I
are still
hate
being
yeah.
weird.
That's
People are
why
still being weird. Why are they being so weird, Kyle? Stop. Why are these people being so weird?
it's
Just be
so
normal.
embarrassing. Hey, thanks for coming along today, Philip.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming.
gracing us with your presence.
Oh, you're welcome. Until the our extensive Patreon funds get high enough again to send me back to Asia. Unfortunately,
Or
I'm
wherever you want to go, really.
stuck here. Yeah, no, I get it. Maybe next time I'll go somewhere else
Yeah.
to do some frontline reporting from Antarctica or something.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if you want to hear that, if you want to see that kind of content, Patreon summary, sub up, send us some money, help fund Phillips,
Junkets.
yeah, to wherever he wants to go. That's been another episode of 10200. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our audience for keeping us alive. Get out there, do things, don't be weird. Catch you next week.
If artificers are denied, living a pointless life, but learning all your lessons. Fucking politics, there's no distinction. The road's upon now. It's paved with good intentions. And I'll admit that I'm at a loss for what to say when they quote us as a cost we ought to stay. Cause I live amongst the people every day. In this vindictive, forgetful fucking rain, it feels like we're on the road to hell.